First of all, it's an honor to be here speaking with you this morning. And I never take it lightly. What I'm going to cover with you this morning, I feel, is arguably the most important concept that Zinzino has. We're going to take a look at the health protocol. But I've got you for a long time, which means we can really go through it from the beginning. We can have a look at some of the data. I intend to explain why it matters, what makes it important, and then we'll go through to the protocol and how to use it and how to embed it. So hopefully you'll understand for yourself, and more importantly, you'll be able to explain it to other people. So, are we all ready? Yeah? Are we all ready? Okay. It's the first session. You should be full of energy. This should be the bit that's going to be the one that you remember most. So, let's go through it. Okay. When you look at this slide, and I've looked at this slide lots of times, I want you to think honestly about your diet as it is today. Maybe your diet as it was 2 or 3 years ago. But more importantly, I want you to consider the diets of the people around us, all across mainland Europe, the UK, Ireland, North America, Australia, South Africa, wherever we see the development of what we call the modern industrial society or the modern industrial world, we see a transformation of dietary practice. And what that's led to over the past 30, 40 years is this. So it would be great if everyone in the world still had or favored a diet that looked like this. So much of the fish they consumed was good, fresh, wild, line-caught, fatty fish, packed with omega-3. That would be amazing. And if the oils they used, either when they were preparing food or when they were putting food on the table, was derived from high phytonutrients, high polyphenol olive oils, extra virgin olive oils, this would be great. I would have to have an entirely different career because I wouldn't have a job. But from a world health point of view, this would be amazing. But the truth is, most of the world, their diet looks like this. When they eat fish, they eat what we call meat fish. So it's a good source of protein. It's not that this is bad in itself. However, it doesn't pack any of the nutritional benefits that this one has here. And 80% of European oil consumption comes from these types of oils, which are full of omega-6. Omega-6 is not bad. Omega-6 is an essential polyunsaturated fatty acid. But we consume too much of it. And this is really true when we look at most of our dietary practice. It's not so long ago people were obsessed that carbohydrates were bad for you. Carbohydrates are really good for you. The problem we had is people simply eat too many of them, too much carbohydrate. And so now we have this. The other problem we have with this is how it's prepared. And this is the type of fish that you'll find in most processed and ultra-processed foods, ready-made meals. If you go to fast food chains, I don't like calling them restaurants, but you know what I mean. In the UK, which, as you may have guessed, is where I live, and Ireland, which is where I'm from, we have a national dish where we do the worst possible things in the world to this. Have you ever heard of our national dish? It's a delicacy. It's called fish and chips. And what we do is we'll take a piece of cod or a piece of haddock, and we will submerge it in oil as hot as a volcano. It's typically the cheapest kind of oil that you can find. Once it's been wrapped in a batter, which in itself should come with a hazardous health warning. And then we lift it out, we place it in a piece of paper next to a mountain of deep-fried potato cut chips, which have suffered the same treatment. And then we might add to that some really processed, what we call mushy peas. So you take a pea and you beat it to within an inch of its life until it's all mushed up. And then, just in case you don't think we've destroyed it enough, when we put it on the plate, we cover it in the cheapest type of salt you can imagine and then drown it in vinegar. And that's why people think that British food is awful. It's also a big part of the reason why when people have an idea about fish in the UK and Ireland, and actually lots of parts of the world, this is the kind of fish they think of. So it's never, or it's very rare, that it's part of a really healthy meal. It can be, though. So I'll come back to this point, but we have a fundamental issue with addressing this from a dietary point of view. And can you think what that might be? Everyone goes quiet. No one wants me to look at them. Well, currently, there are approximately 8 billion people living on the planet. 100 years ago, there was only 2 billion of us, so we've done really well. We've been busy. And we need about 2 servings of this per day in order for us to reach those recommended levels of EPA and DHA intake, those key marine-based omega-3s. We could take this from the algae, that's a different conversation, but to achieve this through fish, we'd literally have to eat this twice a day. Do the math. 8 billion people eating 2 portions of fish every single day. We wouldn't have to worry about our diet because the ecological impact of that would probably destroy the planet in a month. We can't pull that many fish out the sea. So we have to think about this in far more modern, scientific, 21st century ways. We have to go about the problem in a different way. So, in the ideal world, here's what would happen. I would finish this talk in about 5 minutes because I would give you a simple message. I'd say, go home, speak to your families, your friends, everybody, reduce how much omega-6 you consume. Eat less omega-6 and eat more omega-3. Okay? Are you all happy? Good advice? Thanks for inviting me across. Thanks very much. If only it was that easy. The fact is that, and we'll look at this from a cellular point of view in a moment, in order for us to reach biological balance, and biology is all about balance, it really is. It's in fact, the phrase is homeostasis, which is the dynamic art of equilibrium. Every aspect of your biology, your physiology, is trying to maintain balance within a certain tolerance. And when things are out of balance, things very rarely, if ever, go well. Given that omega-3 and omega-6 function at a cellular level, they literally influence the membrane of each and every one of the 37 trillion cells that makes up the amazing human life that you are. You cannot have balance across those cells if you don't have balance in your diet, because these are essential nutrients. And what that means is you have to eat them. Your body can't manufacture them. you have to consume them. So if we don't have a balanced approach to our intake, we cannot possibly have a balanced approach to our biological homeostasis. And so this would be really easy. The easiest advice in the world. Eat less of one, eat more of the other. I've already explained one part of that problem. We couldn't pull that amount of fish out to sea. There's another part of that problem. It's cost prohibitive. Really good, fresh, wild, line-caught, fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, anchovies, bluefin tuna, they're expensive, really expensive. And so we can't tell everybody in our society, simple, go and do that. Because most people would go, I can't afford to do that. And we have a real problem when it comes to health food and the cost of health food, because ultra-processed food, convenience food, is quite cheap. And because it's cheap, and because it's everywhere, that becomes the normal. So when you say to somebody, well, you need to purchase this healthier food, it looks really expensive by comparison. So people develop an attitude that healthy food is expensive. It's not really. It's just by comparison to ultra-processed cheap food, it looks more expensive. But then there's the reality of how much money we earn and how much we can afford. So there are lots of problems when we say to somebody, eat more of this and less of that. But because of this, because of this consumer and dietary trend, this imbalance reflects the imbalance that we see all around the world. In 2018, the Office of Global Burden produced a report. This is 6 years ago now, and their estimation was that 6.2 billion people on the planet were living with an omega-3 deficiency. And the reason why they published this is because it's well known within the research, within clinical, medical, and health practice, that the omega-3 level ratio is a huge indicator to not only the quality of your health, but also your risk of poor health. And so when we know that most of the planet have a deficiency in an essential nutrient, that's an alarm. We need to do something about it. We need to figure this out. And in fact, before I joined Zinzino, I was a part of a research team that's a global research team that was trying to answer this problem. How do we fix this? How do we make it so that the people who are living in the worst, the most economically deprived areas are still able to achieve a vital sense of health, and not just something that only affluent or rich people can do? So it's a big problem. And I don't like to talk about disease or illness. I actually prefer to promote a positive health message. I prefer to encourage people to be healthy and live better and have a better quality of life. But if there's anyone in the room who is doubtful of this, I would encourage you to do two simple things. The first one is wake up, have a look around you in the world, and see how many people are in poor health. Just take a look. Look at factors related to overweight, obesity, type 2 diabetes, metabolic syndrome, cardiovascular disease, all types of cancer, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's. They are all on the increase. We have never known a society so scientifically or medically advanced as we are now, and yet every indicator of chronic disease is getting worse every year. Just take a look. The second thing I'd like you to do, and you can do this really easily, you can do it on your phone. Go to Google and go on Google Scholar. Google Scholar is a search engine whereby you can look at all the research that's been published in the scientific review papers from all over the world and type in omega-3 and health and look at all the millions, and I mean literally millions, of research articles that are exploring this area. This is a huge area of huge concern. So, before you do that, I can very proudly tell you about the world's biggest database when it comes to omega-3. And I can tell you about it because we own it. This is literally the world's largest database, to the extent that we now have the privilege that when people want to know about how the world looks and its omega-3 status, they come to us and we don't go to them. In the past 6 months, we have initiated and agreed research partnerships with some of the biggest, highest profile universities in the world, because their researchers are approaching us and going, you've got over 1 million independently verified and analyzed samples in your database. You are partnered with one of the most recognized and reputable pioneering laboratories in the world. We need access to your information. We know how the world looks. And the data I'm about to share with you in a moment will give you a snapshot, an insight to how the world looks when it comes to their omega-3 status. You all knew about this, didn't you? You were quiet. Yeah. You all knew about this. Did you all know about this? 1 million? It's actually way over 1 million now. We reached this last summer, where I think we're on 1.3 million now or something like that. It's growing at a faster rate. And so we can map the world. And we have two incredible in-house researchers. We have Dr. Emily Gislovic, and we've recently appointed, back in September last year, added to the team, Dr. Martina Torreson. And they now spend 5 days a week working on the database, producing the scientific papers that we're about to publish. And the first publication will be out this year. And it's literally going to show the whole scientific community how the world really looks. And this is going to be a snapshot. So, everybody, some of you may have seen this before. Now, I can't show you the latest data, because if I do that, we can't publish it. It's one of the rules of publishing in scientific literature. However, rest assured, the more up-to-date data looks exactly like this. Exactly like this. Because at the point in time that we were making this interpretation, there was already nearly 600,000 samples in the database. So when we look at people who don't use an omega-3 all around the world, so they're living what you would call a typical diet, how people eat food these days, the average of their ratio of arachidonic acid to EPA, so the pro-inflammatory to the anti-inflammatory, is 14.8 to 1. What should it be? Okay. This is like a game show. People go, 2 to 1, 1 to 1. It should be less than 4 to 1. Ideally, it should be less than 3 to 1. That's where it should be. And so 14.8 is way out of ratio. But whenever you average data of this size, it actually hides a lot of information. And this is what I would call a positive average. And the reason why I say that is there are some parts of the world that are way higher than this, way higher. When we isolate different countries, there are certain territories where their average is much higher. But obviously, there are some areas that it's lower. But the average around the world tells us that most people are out of balance. But they don't do anything about it. Now, here comes my favorite group of people. I do like these people. Have you ever met one of these people? I meet them regularly. So someone will say, what is it you do? And I explain what I do and who I work for. And they go, well, I take an omega-3 supplement, and it's the best supplement in the world, and it's cheaper than yours. I go, okay, very good. What is it you take? And they will tell me, or they will show me the omega-3 that they prefer. And I say, how do you know it's the best? Because you've just told me. You've told me you're really happy with it. It's the best omega-3 in the world. How do you know it's the best? And at this stage, I normally get entertained by an incredible story about their product. And I've heard every kind of story, but they're all quite similar. The common one, and actually a really high-profile Premiership footballer told me this, because he signed up to a club that we work with. And everybody in the club was about to do their balance test. The rest of the club had been using balance oil for at least a year. He was a new signing. He'd arrived at the club. He had his own nutritionist. And he said to me, I don't need to do your test, and I don't need to take your product, because the product I take is from the purest oceans in the world. And when they go out to catch the fish, they have the most sensitive, soft way of farming the fish out of the water. And the stories really get quite carried away. I've been told stories about virgins swimming in the sea who cradle the fish and lift them onto the boat. And as the fish lies there singing a little song as it dies, they capture the essence of the omega-3 fresh right there and then. And they put it in a crystal glass ball, and it's sealed from the environment. It's the purest type of EPA and DHA the world has ever known. And then they take this ball off to a secret island where monks who have lived for 2,000 years, well, they say prayers and they bless the EPA and the DHA. And then it comes all the way across and it goes to all these different countries, and they put it in a tub like that. And then you buy it, and it's only €9.99 for 60 capsules, and it's going to take care of all your omega-3 needs. It's amazing. Incredible. Whew. And I say, I can't compete with that. That sounds amazing. That sounds incredible. All we do is we are Friends of the Sea certified with the Fishing Alliance. We go to this really cold part of the sea and get these really nice fish, and we take them off, and it's all immediately processed and frozen, and we have the highest standards of refining the oil, and then we encapsulate it in these pre-harvested Pequal olives because of the high phytonutrients. And we haven't got any virgins, we haven't got any monks, the fish don't sing, so yours is probably way better than ours. So let's do a test. Let's see how well it's working for you. And we do the test. We test them. Blood analysis, independently analyzed, verified by the world's leading dry blood spot laboratories in Norway, led by Thomas Gunderson, who himself has over 200 peer-reviewed research articles in the highest impact papers. We're talking about an organization that gets millions of pounds of central EU funding to pioneer in the area of health science. And we analyze it. And you come out at 9.9 to 1. Well done. Those virgin fish are amazing. So, tell me this. Is 9.9 better than 14.8? Not very confident. I'll ask it again. Is 9.9 better than 14.8? Yeah, okay. I agree. It's definitely better. But it's what we call a meaningless difference. It's better, definitely. That is better than that. Because the goal is to be less than 4-1. Ideally less than 3-1. And this is closer to the goal than this one. But it's not a goal. It's a meaningless difference. And forgive me, I've described this in the way I'm about to describe it now before. You may have heard me do this. But this is the best way. I really want to put this in your mind, because this happens a lot in science. We see a difference, but the difference doesn't have any meaning. It's just numbers. That's better than that. But if this was about goal scoring, and who should we have? You and me. We're going to have a competition. We're going to have a big football goal. We get the ball. We stand on the penalty spot. No goalkeeper. Whoever kicks the ball in the goal gets €1 million. Good competition? Yeah? Everyone up for it? Before I commence, it should be worth noting that I'm probably the worst footballer in the world, bar none. So I go first, because I'm like that. And I kick the ball, and it goes flying off into the corner, nowhere near the goal. Okay? No €1 million. And now you kick it. You're way better than me. You kick the ball, and it goes off, and it's outside the goalpost. So you don't get $1 million either. You were way closer to the goal than I was. Way closer. But you're not getting €1 million. You didn't score a goal. In fact, it's harder for you to live with than me. I can carry on with my life. I know I'm rubbish at football. I was miles away. You were this close to $1 million. More importantly, when people tell me this, and they say, my product is cheaper than yours, a product that doesn't work is the single most expensive product in the world. Why would you bother taking it? Why would you pay money for something that doesn't work? Imagine if you invited somebody into your home to put down fresh carpets, and they said, yeah, give me €2,000, you pay them, and they just go. Where's the carpet? I'm not going to put it down. But somebody else, quoted me 5,000, which was more expensive, and I went with yours because it was cheaper. Yeah, not going to do it. This is the same. This is insane. To take a product that makes no difference is the most expensive habit you can have. So, I'll get to the point in a moment with our data, but what I want you to have confidence with, because you probably have these conversations more than me, is that the world is out of balance. The world is way out of balance, and we know that for most people, a change to their diet and a standard off-the-shelf supplement doesn't work. Before I joined Zinzino, I was researching this area because we had to find one that did work. This was a publication by Cochrane in 2018. For those of you who may not know, a Cochrane review, a meta-analysis, systematic review, is one of the highest standards of research investigation we have. It takes all of the best evidence in an area, it statistically appraises it, and says, here's where we're really at. And so before I even had ever heard of Zinzino, I was working on the omega-3 problem. And I thought, this is easy, because back in the 1980s, when I was a child, my mother, who was from Dublin in Ireland, she didn't know anything about nutrition. She really didn't. But even she took cod liver oil capsules because she knew that omega-3 was important for her joints. She just knew. People did. They knew it was an important thing to do. And so when I was tasked with our research team with the problem, I thought, there is no problem. We'll just go and get supplements. We can give everyone supplements, and they're quite cheap. And so I started to look at the research, and I found this. And it looked at over 112,000 people in 79 of the highest quality trials to see the impact of a standard omega-3 supplement. And the outcome is there is little or no effect of omega-3 supplements. So if we go back here, this is our database. We know there is little or no effect of standard supplements. The Cochrane review that's looked at the best evidence available agrees there's little effect of standard supplements. But then we look at people who've been using balance oil consistently for 120 days. So this is second test data. And this is really important, and I want you to think about this. Consistency is key. You are the outcome of the things you do most often. We tell everybody the recommendation for balance oil to hit those daily levels is take 0.15 milliliters per kilogram of your own body mass per day. Per day. Not on the days when I remember, not on the days when I can be bothered. Every day. You are the outcome of what you do most often. So this is the data for people who've been taking balance oil every day for 120 days. And this accounts for nearly 98% of all the people who take the test. So 2% don't get this in 120 days. So we followed up on that data. We had a look at that data. Why aren't these 2% getting it? For some, it's because they're not taking it every day. And for others, because there is always a bit of an individual response, we thought, well, we'll track some more people. And we'll ask people to test again, but closer to the time. And what we've realized now, people who are really active, people who go to the gym, athletes, they take a little bit longer. And what we've noticed now is that if you're an athlete, if you're someone who's active and you go to the gym and you do exercise or yoga, Pilates, dancing, whatever it is, then for you, it takes around about 140 days. Okay? More metabolic demand, takes a little bit longer to adjust. And so we know now the complete story. But the key part is consistency. And so this is not only profound and hugely different to the cheaper option and radically different and addressing the health consequences of those who don't do anything. There's something else that often gets overlooked when we look at this data. And it's a really important thing to note, is that when you go from this, which is the average, to this in approximately 4 months' time, you have just literally radically transformed not only your health status, but your health risks. You're now pretty much in an entirely new category of health. It's that important. That important. And it all relates to something that is built on this. Are you all aware of the omega-3 level or the omega-3 index? Yes? No? Almost. Little voice at the back. Almost. We need to talk about it more. I ask that question genuinely because we talk about ratio a lot. This is ratio. So this is cellular level, omega-6 versus omega-3. But we need to talk about this more because if you go and have a look at the research, most of the conversation in the scientific community and in the medical community is interested in the level, or sometimes it's called the index. So back in 2004, a group of researchers led by a gentleman called Harris, they established what's called the omega index. And the omega index is a risk prediction of the development of a non-communicable disease purely based on your omega-3 status. That's how powerful this is. Hospitals and health authorities use this all over the world. The omega level is the same, but the omega level takes a sample from whole blood, so it's more strict, okay? They're both the same, they both work to the same values, but the level is the more strict version, and that's the one we use, because we like to do things to the micro detail. So, less than 4% omega-3 total in your blood of all those fats, this puts you in the highest risk category for the development of a non-communicable disease. So if you're living down here, it's not a question of will I get sick, it's a question of when will I get sick. You're in the highest risk category for the development of a non-communicable disease. Your internal biology, your physiology is primed and ready for sickness. It's really, there's no better way I can put it. This range here, 4 to 8, is where you'll find a lot of people who are doing a lot of things right. So they are making good food choices, they are exercising regularly, they are quite active. They're probably taking another type of supplement or really focused on how they can get omega-3 in their diet, but they can't quite get to where they need to be. Because it's really hard to do a 3-year diet. So they're in this middle zone, which is what we call moderate risk. And for me, someone who's worked clinically, and I still am involved in a lot of clinical research and strategy, these are the group who psychologically struggle the most when they get the news that not all is well. Because these are the ones who in a consultation will go, how can this happen to me? I'm doing everything I'm meant to do. I exercise, I'm active, I try to eat well. This can't happen to me. And this is this middle group. Because they are close, they're doing so many things well, but they're not quite there. Do you remember a moment ago when I talked to you about biology and balance and ratios and a meaningless difference? Close is not close enough. Not when it comes to fundamental biology and pathology. And this one here, above 8%, and I'll let you into a little secret, you want to be really up, try and be up around about 10%. That's the lowest risk. It doesn't mean you can't get anything. Of course not. We're human. We're vulnerable. We live in a wild world. But at this point here, you're at the lowest possible risk. And what we see consistently, the data tells us this, 120 days. The data also tells us this. Most of our people, most of the population that we analyze from all around the world shift from highest risk or moderate risk into lowest risk in approximately 120 days. So a moment ago, when I told you how profound and important this change is, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Hands up everyone in the room who, and be honest now, either themselves or one of their friends or family on social media just a couple of weeks ago said, "New year, new me. This is my year." Come on, hands up. Everyone who either said it or knows someone who said it. My social media feed is full of it. It's like watching a firework display. They're all going off. New year, new me. I'm going to join the gym. I'm going to climb Mount Everest. It's going to be amazing. If you really want the new year to be the new you, just do this. Like, just literally. Don't go and buy expensive trainers. Don't go and pay for an expensive gym membership. Don't sign on to some online yoga guru. Don't do any of those things. Just start taking balance oil and take it every day for 120 days. And then you literally, biologically, physiologically will be a new you by the time you get into April. That's it. You've done it. Well done. You've achieved it. And you did it sitting on the couch watching Netflix. Well done. Isn't that amazing? Obviously, I would encourage you to go to the gym and run and do your yoga. I obviously would encourage that. But this is the single most profound alteration you can make to not only your biology, but pathology. You can measurably, quantifiably reduce your risk. So either for yourself, I know you're all Zinzino people, or when you're having conversations with partners, customers, clients, family members, you need to steer the conversation more towards this, because the science is sound and the difference is remarkable. This is the key part to getting it right. So how do we do it? Is it a secret? Is it a secret? Do you all know how we do it? One person does. So it's really simple. There's no secret. Of course it's not a secret. We're dealing with science. We're not making Kentucky Fried Mutant in a box or a tub. By the way, just a little tip when it comes to your diet. Anytime anybody gives you food in a bucket is a bad sign. Don't eat food from a bucket. If you don't know what I'm talking about, KFC might give you a clue. When you get treated like a donkey in how they serve your food, that's not the place for you to be, okay? So how do we get it in balance? We don't have any secrets. We have omega-3, the highest grade, a proprietary blend. We have our own ratio of EPA and DHA. And the reason why we have that is because we know through trial and error, testing and research, that is the one that will bring you into balance. That is the one that synergistically will meaningfully change your levels of EPA and DHA, the pro-inflammatory, the one that's contributing towards those cognitive and brain factors in time. And by the way, you don't have to wait 120 days. The improvements start pretty soon. But we encapsulate it in a high phytonutrient polyphenol. The simple way of saying that is it's singularly the highest grade olive oil in the world. Really hard to farm. There are only a few places in the world that can do it. It's really susceptible to the climate and weather. We have to monitor that on a weekly, monthly basis. We have unique contracts. We have rights over contracts to access this to ensure that we can continue to have the source of olives that we need to ensure the quality we need. Because the olive oil isn't just a random thing. The polyphenol, the phytonutrient content of that oil is essential. It protects the omega-3. I'll come back to that in a little bit. But in itself is a powerful pro-anti-inflammatory. There is hardly a doctor in the world now, and certainly for the past 20 years, who doesn't encourage their patients to take a teaspoon, a tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil every single day. Because we know the nutritional value of those polyphenols and how powerful it is with regards to being an anti-inflammatory. Also, and most of them won't know this next part, but you now will, olive oil is a prebiotic. It actually nurtures your gut. It helps with your gut health, and it helps you to foster those good bacteria. Some people don't know this either. But omega-3 is a prebiotic. It functions like a prebiotic. So when we can get omega-3 into the gut, that also not only functions at a cellular level, but optimizes gut health. So it helps with the absorption of other foods. So when we take an approach like this, it has multiple levels of impact that are positive. If you've got some really nice olive oil at home, which I hope you do, and it's really good quality, which I hope it is, it's probably about 100 milligram per kilogram of polyphenol. Nice. The one that we use in Balance Oil Premium is 750 milligram, and the one we use in the standard product is 500. So even our standard is 5 times more than you will find in a really good bottle of extra virgin olive oil at home. The quality is everything. That's typically true in life. And so this encapsulates it. It protects it. Because refined fish oil is actually quite vulnerable. It's susceptible to oxidation. And you may have had this in the past if you've tried other types of fish oil products. The first time you open it, everything's okay. You put the lid back on and put it back into the cupboard or fridge. Second time, still not too bad, a little bit different. Third or fourth time, there's a smell. And the taste is changed. And that's an early sign of oxidation for sure. But the worst part is not that, because actually there's probably still a lot of integrity to that. It's just the smell. Where we rarely damage a standard product is when we consume it. The heat of the body destroys it. What we call the first pass to get through the stomach. I'm sure you're all aware that the stomach is this sack of acid that pretty much reduces whatever lovely meal you've had into a soupy gloop that then gets pushed down through the rest of the digestive tract in order for those nutrients to be absorbed and utilized. And as a scientist, as a researcher, I often think about that when I'm having a really nice meal in an expensive restaurant. I go, wow, the nice part here is the next 5 seconds. And then it's going to get turned into an acidy, gloopy soup and get squeezed down into the digestive tract. It's crazy, isn't it? They're the kind of things that go through the mind of someone like me when you're in a nice restaurant. So here we are. This is a key aspect of it. It's functional in itself, and it protects the oil. Another thing that is decidedly different to what we do, to what most of the people do, although, as you know, people have started to copy us and imitate it, that's okay. Ours is based on your body weight. Because believe it or not, we're all different shapes and sizes. And so what would be a recommendation for me would be entirely different to a recommendation for you, for instance. Or, I'm trying to look around now, even you. You're clearly quite a muscular chap. There's going to be differences. So we adjust it. That 0.15 milliliters will mean a different number in the cup to me, to you, to you, to you, to you. There's another adjustment you should make to this. And you all know what that is. Who else would you adjust this dosage for? Body weight's the one there, Cash? Test? But what other population? I've already mentioned them. No? You're all right with both of them? Athletes. Really active people, professional athletes, need to take a little bit more. And I would encourage, if you've got a professional athlete or you've got somebody who exercises every day, goes to the gym, does a lot of strength training, I would encourage them to take 0.2 milliliters per kilogram. Okay, they need a little bit more. They're going to use more of that as fuel within the cell. But otherwise, this is a superb formula for adjusting the world into balance just by being consistent and taking it every day. So now, we're going to delve into the practical aspect of this. How do we do this in reality? Hopefully, you're now up to date bang on course with the research, the rationale as to the difference it makes. Now we're going to look at the practical aspect of it and how you should embed it. And as a nutritionist, and I've worked as a nutritionist for a long, long time, 25 years now, I learned a lot about humans. And humans are not rational at all. Knowing is not enough. If it was, imagine what the world would look like. You all have in your pockets, and I can see them out here now, there's phones everywhere, immediate, instant access to a world of knowledge and information. Don't you? If you don't know, what do you do? You Google it. You just go online and you go, okay, Google, which can mislead a lot of people, believe me. I have a friend who doesn't trust Google whatsoever. It's really funny. Whenever I go somewhere and I see a Google head office, I do a selfie and send it to him. And he typically replies by saying, don't go in there. They'll brainwash you. But we do. We all have immediate access to knowledge. Yeah? So explain this to me then. If we all have immediate access to knowledge, therefore we all have the capacity to know everything we need to know. Yeah? Yeah? You all look a bit reluctant. Yeah? Why is anybody in the world overweight? Why is anyone in the world have type 2 diabetes? Why is anyone in the world racist? We've got immediate access to knowledge and information. How can these things happen? Sorry? It's not only they don't use it, they don't listen. It doesn't change anything about it. How many of you, and this is going to be more true for the ladies than it is for the gentlemen, how many of you said to one of your friends, do not go on a date with that person. It's not going to work out well. And they go on the date, and it doesn't work out well. And you go, I did tell you not to do that. We're not rational. We make irrational decisions every day. If we were rational, there would be no love. Love is one of the most irrational concepts ever come to mind. So when I say to somebody, okay, stop eating chocolate biscuits every day, and I'm in a nutritional consultation, and they're sat over the desk from me, do you know what they do? They go, okay. And then they go home, and they have a chocolate biscuit with a drink whilst they think about what I've told them. Yeah? Nothing changes. When I say to somebody, you know, you shouldn't have takeaway food 3 times a week, because bear in mind, when I'm in a hospital, my job, or part of my job, was to help those people to lose weight so that they could undergo a life-saving operation. You would think this is the point at which the person would go, I need to do this because I need to lose the weight so it's safe enough for me to go under general anesthetic so they can give me a life-saving procedure. They've got their partner at home, their children, their whole lives. Now's the time to listen. And they go, right, let's go to the pizza place, you know, and just have one last one before I start to do this. Or I'll start tomorrow. Tomorrow, that magical land where everything's going to happen. We're all going to be amazing tomorrow. The best thing about tomorrow is it never comes because you keep waking up today. Do it tomorrow. Do it tomorrow. And so what I learned, and I actually write about this in that book, is you've got to work with humans, not against them. And so what I do is I encourage them to just add really positive nutritional things to their diet. Because I know it'll change how they feel. And if I change how you feel and I change how you think, that empowers you to make better choices on your own behalf. The reason why people don't stick to diets is because it's all sacrifice, no gain. All the things that they've grown to love, those chocolates, those cakes, those sweets, those fast food things, I'm the bad guy. Can't have them anymore. What? They just don't want to listen. But when I say, okay, what I want you to do is add some blueberries to your breakfast tomorrow. Okay. Is that it? Yep, that's all I want you to do. Blueberries are quite sweet, quite nice. Just going to add that to the breakfast. Okay. That's a win. Great. And we do that for a week. And then I see them a week later. How's it going? Yeah, great. Superb. What's next? When you wake up in the morning, I want you to have a glass of water. What? Is that it? Yep, that's it. Have a glass of water. Okay. A week later, how are you getting on? It's easy. Brilliant. Let's keep going. Let's keep adding the good stuff in. Because the power of epigenetics, your biology is really easy to mold and shape. And good things have a positive effect on your gene expression, and bad things have a negative effect. But the body responds brilliantly. So when I start to hydrate you, guess what? You start to think more clearly automatically. A 2% drop in hydration leads to a 10% drop in cognitive function. How can I expect you to think clearly when you're not even hydrated? When you consume something like a blueberry that is packed in vitamin C, rich in antioxidants, DNA protective, DNA repairing, mopping up all those free radicals, you start to feel different. And because consistency is key, and you are the product of the things you do most often, 1 week, 2 week, 3 week of adding these good things in, and you start to adjust. You start to reposition the compass. I've had so much more success with this than I ever had saying to people, stop doing that, stop doing this. And before I move through these, I'm going to explain this in a way that I always explain it, because I love explaining it this way. And there might be some nutritionists or dietitians in the room, and I want you to think about what I say next. I spent a big part of my career being right. And I'm an academic. We love being right. There's an old saying, which is that professors don't debate. They don't have conversations. They just wait to speak. Just wait. And someone's saying something. And then you say what you were going to say anyway. Academics, professors love to be right. And nutritionists and doctors and dietitians, they love to be right as well. And I know I've been one. When you're right, when you stood on your soapbox and you're being right, and you say, everything should come from your diet, whole food diet, you don't need supplements and you don't need this, you just need to eat fresh fatty fish, and you've got to have lots of vegetables and fruits, and you've got to stop having starchy white carbs, and you've got to stop eating chocolate and don't have any dessert. And you say, you're right. It's amazing. But I want you to imagine now that this is not a stage, it's the banks of a river. And someone's fallen in and they're drowning. And I want to be right. And I say, you shouldn't have fallen in. I'm right. They shouldn't have fallen in. Or I could say, you should have learned to swim. You wouldn't be drowning now if you'd learned to swim. And I would be right. Be good, wouldn't it? It's not going to change their situation. It's not going to help them. But I'm right. That's all that matters. Told you. Or, if you've got any decency or humanity, you would lean over and you would pull them out the water. And you can have conversations about swimming and not falling in when they're alive. That's the way to do it. When you embed this, you give people a chance to survive. You can stand there and go, don't do this and don't do that, and you've got to change all this. You can have a YouTube channel where you're on top of a mountain in Tibet and you drink water from the leaf of a nettle. And you can look amazing. And most people go, whatever. You've got to help people on the terms they're at. And we can do it powerfully by adding before we subtract. Putting something in before we take anything away. Because people like to gain. They don't like to lose. Remember that. It's a human condition. And so the health protocol, we finally got there, is all about adding and repositioning someone's health and their dietary health, not by getting lost in all that conversation about whether they eat too many fast food things or biscuits or chocolate bars or sweets and candies, it's about going, let's just start to fix things. We balance the cell, we restore the gut, and we boost the amount of circulating vitamins and minerals so that the body can make use of them. That's exactly what we do. And it is powerful in how effective it is. It repositions people. So let's start at the beginning. I don't know if you know this, I've mentioned it once today, but there are approximately 37 trillion cells in the human body. The remarkable bit is that you started as one. That cell divides and replicates. 1 to 2 to 4 to 8 to 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, boom, 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 boom. 37 trillion. And that's you for a lifetime. And those cells are turning over on a daily basis. By the time a year has passed, you have a brand new collection of them. Judging yourself off the person you were a year ago or 2 years ago is literally judging yourself against the person who doesn't exist anymore. And by the time we get to the 5-year point, there's not even a bone in your body that is the same as what you have now. Everything is replenishing, renewing, restoring, turning over on a daily rate. This is why we can measure the change in 120 days, because the lifespan of a red blood cell is approximately 120 days. So when I take a measure today, that's who you are today. When I get you to take balance oil every day, 120 days, it's a new version of you. It's a new red blood cell. How does that new red blood cell look? All life contains cells, and all cells contain life. These are, without doubt, the most incredible phenomena. Everything around us are made of cells. This is who and what you are. So answer me this, or ask your friends, your family, whoever this. If you're not healthy at a cellular level, and cells are what you are, can you be healthy at any level? Just think about it. People all too often think of things too simplistically. Say, I've got a sore knee. I've got a sore back. I've got an upset stomach. I've got a headache. You are a complete organism. These are just geographical aspects of who and what you are. What you are is a collection of 37 trillion cells. So what you have to focus on is the foundation of health, which is to make sure that they are not only surviving, but they are thriving. And that's how we do it. The heart of every single one of those cells has something called the mitochondria. It's a power plant. It's incredible. It's where all energy actually comes from. If you're healthy and well, those mitochondria, they're always lit up. They're always alive. It's like leaving all the lights on in your house. The energy is there, waiting and available. When we start to compromise the cell, we get towards cellular dysfunction, mitochondrial dysfunction, and that leads to all kinds of negative outcomes. That's where we find things like fibromyalgia, autoimmune disease, certain times of chronic post-viral fatigue. But it's also the fast track to how systems begin to fail. Think about it like this. Do you all have a car? You don't like telling me much, do you? All very secretive. I promise you, I'm not working on behalf of any government or agency or tax person. You can tell me. Do most people in the room own a car? And this works even better nowadays. Whether you've got an engine or you've got an electrical car, how far will that car go if I take out the battery? Nowhere. So how far do you expect you to go if you keep switching off all the batteries in all those cells? Nowhere. Think about it on those terms. It's really simple. It's really simple. Too simple. Take this every day. Foolproof. Do it. Hands up people in the room who've ever forgotten to take it. No one's going to tell me. So you've all, there's one person at the back. Well, I've forgotten. There's been times when I've forgotten because you're so busy. We need to take it every day. Most days, every day. That's the strategy. Restore the cell. Sometimes I think I should start from here. I love the gut. It's the center of the human universe. Inside there, you will find 100 trillion bacteria. What was the number on the slide before it? 37 trillion. That's what you are, but inside you live 100 trillion bacteria. You are just a host. You are a planet within which all these bacteria, these microbes, they live. The good thing is they love you and they function on your behalf if you look after them. 70% of the immune function is derived from inside the gut. Think about that for a moment. 70% of how your immune system functions is derived from the gut. I always think that the design of biology is incredible. It's phenomenal. It's miraculous. But if I could change one thing, what I would do is instead of there being skin and muscle here, that's, the kind of color that it is, I would make it so that it was translucent like a window. So you could literally see in to what's going on in the gut. Every time you lifted your top or opened your shirt, you could see it all happening. I'd love that. That's the one design change I would make to humans. Because then when they went to certain burger places, and they went, it's okay once in a while, and I saw them eat the food, and then they could watch as the bacteria die and scream in pain. Yeah. What do you think? Let's open our tops and take a look. But by the same power, if we could do that, if we could see inside, if this was like a big fish tank, when you put dietary fibers in there, when you put omega-3 in there, when you put polyphenols in there, when you put good sources of food in there, and you watch this place light up and the good bacteria function on your behalf and proliferate and act dynamically, and you could see, a bit like lifting the hood on your car, and you could see the engine of the immune system ticking over. Imagine how amazing that would be. Imagine how satisfying that would be. Imagine being able to go, don't feel too good today, let's have a look. Actually, it's not too bad, I'm okay. Zip it back up and go to work. We would nurture it better if we could see it, but here's the truth. The recommended daily allowance of dietary fibers, anywhere from 28 to 40 grams per day. The average person in this country eats less than half a day. Less than half of the recommended allowance of dietary fibers. We typically get them from vegetables and fruits. Consumption of those foods has not only gone down, but also intensive agriculture has meant that the nutrient availability, the nutrients within the soil has gone down. So it's hard. You can do it that way for sure, but it's hard. And we know it's hard because the vast majority of people all across Europe, North America, UK, Ireland, Australia, South Africa, all these places gets less than half of what they need today. So that's like starving these. That's literally the equivalent of starving this ecosystem. And if you're starving the ecosystem, how do you expect it to survive? And then we do something else. We don't just starve them, but we eat types of food that willfully damage them or kill them. And we're at a point now in our history where we need to have stronger conversations about food. We know that UPF, ultra-processed food, is calorie high, energy high, nutrient low, and that the chemical compounds, the emulsifiers, the gums, the stabilizers, the flavor enhancers, all these things damage the gut. They damage the gut. We need to get real about this. But remember, we're adding before we subtract. So instead of saying to people, don't eat those, we're just going to get straight in with something we can add to start to make this ecosystem come alive, restore it. And we do it with this incredible product. And it's always interesting to me when I look at how people engage with us as a business and what products they prefer. And, you know, Balance Oil is miles ahead. People love Balance Oil. It's miles ahead. But genuinely, I think about this a lot. I'm thinking of changing how I describe the health protocol. I'm thinking that we should start here. That the first bit of information we give you, the first slide, the first bit of advice is nurture your gut. Normalize, restore the gut so that it's ready to receive all that other nutrition. So that your immune system can function for you, to can help you to not only survive, but to live really, really well. And then we should put the Balance Oil in. And I wonder if I did that, would more people take this more seriously? This is every bit as essential as Balance Oil. It reduces blood sugar spikes. A great strategy for this product, I don't know if you do this already, take 1 scoop in a glass of water about 10-15 minutes before you have your meal. Just normalize your blood sugar profile. Taking fibers with a meal is a good strategy anyway. It promotes gut health, balances your cholesterol ratios. Remember, total amounts really don't matter. It's the ratio of the HDL to the LDL. The fiber achieves that on your behalf. Leads to healthy bowel function. I'm glad point 4 is in there because it always makes me stop a moment. Xenobiotic is a product you will experience. Do you understand what I mean? People have quite a profound experience of xenobiotic. And people talk to me about it a lot. And they'll say, hey, Dr. Cole, I listened to you, and I thought, right, I'm going to take xenobiotic. And I started day 1, and I put 2 scoops in, and I drank it, and the next day I did the same, and by day 3, I couldn't move off the toilet. You know, is it me? Is it the product? Okay, so listen to me, good people of Lithuania. If your dietary fiber intake is currently low, if you've never used xenobiotic, I want everyone to listen to me now. Do not start by taking 2 scoops per day. Everyone hear me? Yes. A few people hear me. Did you all hear me? Yes. Start with half a scoop. And take half a scoop for the next 10 days. Brilliant. You're going to let the body adjust, adapt. You know, if you do get any kind of feeling of needing to go to the toilet, that's okay. It won't be too dramatic because it was only half a scoop. And we get to day 10 and we go, brilliant. Everything's good. And then we move up to a scoop. And we do that for another 10 days. And we let the body adjust. We let the gut adjust. And we let them get used to being fed again. And if everything's okay, when we get to day 20, we go to a scoop and a half. And we do another 10 days. You get where this is going, don't you? So you take your time to build up your tolerance, to adjust the gut, actually get those trillions of bacteria used to the fact that you're feeding them again. and they're not just going to go crazy and go, wow, is this a party? You know, we've had nothing, and suddenly we've got 2 scoops. This is amazing. Your body needs to adjust because it will lead to an alteration and overall a normalization of your bowel function. Okay? You've heard it here. Do not attend another event and come to me and say, I listened to you. I started taking 2 scoops a day, and the toilet was my best friend. Okay? That's not going to happen. And then the last one is arguably the most powerful one. It balances the microbiome. The body is full of different types of microbiome. The 2 that we discuss a lot in nutritional health is the oral, the mouth biota microbiome, and the gut microbiome. And they work in relationship with each other. And I want you to think of them from this day forward like a tropical rainforest. They are diverse, they are dense, heavily populated, but they're really, really sensitive. Really sensitive. And the communication within those spaces, the ecological environmental communication, is finely tipped. If they go through a period of a drought, it will have devastating consequences. And in order for it to restore, will take some time. So think of this. It's remarkable. We know more now about the gut microbiota than we knew even 5 years ago. And what we know now compared to what we knew 20 years ago is remarkable. It makes the kind of research that was being discussed 20 years ago so out of date, nobody refers to it anymore. It's a real fast, emerging, progressing area of science. But what we do know, it's the center of all human health. Okay? You are what you eat. It's such an old saying, and it's true. And you all know about Hippocrates, let your food be your medicine, let thy medicine be your food. Wisdom from over 2,000 years. And now, with all these advanced technologies and methods, we're proving this right. We're proving these phrases right. So now we're going to get into communication. Biochemical communication. Because before I joined Zinzino, if I did presentations around the world, it was mostly to scientific people. It was to professors and doctors and consultants and surgeons and researchers. And so I'd got to the point where I thought, everybody knows this. This is not complicated. Everybody knows it. And then through Zinzino and through other work that I've done on strategic health partnerships, I've come to realize that actually most of the world doesn't know this, which made me have a real moment of awakening. What did people think vitamins and minerals did? Because I would talk to people and I'd say, do you know about vitamin C? And they go, yeah, it's important. Vitamin D, yeah, know about it. Iron, yeah. What do you think it does? Don't know. Just know it's important. And so I had that moment to go, and we really need to take the time to explain this to people, because it's vital. It's not optional. It's vital. Every single biochemical process of your body right now, whilst you're sitting here, and the minute you engage to do something else, whether you walk, whether you run, whether you're doing exercise, if you hold your breath, when you're eating food, if you get a cough or a cold or a virus or a chronic sickness, or if I fall off here now and bruise something or break something, when I'm thinking, all relies on the activation and the efficient communication of biochemical sequences. There's an old saying, and it's actually true. There's not really any such thing as biology. There is only chemistry. Biology explains processes when we're talking about multiple organisms, interaction. That's the only difference. Everything really is chemistry. and biochemistry. And so when we look at everything our body relies on, whether it's the microbiomes of the gut, the mouth, everywhere else, when we're thinking about the immune system, when we're thinking about our metabolism, how we utilize energy, how we conserve energy, when we start to think of cognitive function, the endocrine system, vital organ activation, going to the toilet, it's all based on a sequence of biochemical interactions. And to put it simply, when the body needs to communicate an action, a process, a sequence to take place, if there is a deficiency, if you don't have enough vitamin C, then there is a delay. If you don't have enough vitamin D, there's a delay. If you don't have any, it's catastrophic. Omega-3 plays its part, as does omega-6 in biochemical sequences. Think of this really simply. I fall over, you all laugh, I bruise myself. Omega-6 triggers an inflammatory response, and the immune system says, I need to do something. In about 72 hours' time, the increased profile of omega-3 will resolve that communication. The omega-3, the anti-inflammatory, will go, it's okay. It's healed up now. It's healing. We're okay. We don't need those inflammatory markers. When you're dealing with a virus, so if you were to catch a virus, a common virus, when your body is responding to this, when the adaptive immune system, T cells and B cells and things that we call CD8 and CD4 that identify the pathogens, the virus, if vitamin D is not there, nothing prompts the B cell to activate. Or there is a delay in the activation. And if we go back to COVID and all the literature and the research that came out at that time, the people who suffered the most severe symptoms and the worst outcomes all showed a consistent lack of vitamin D. It's that breakdown in communication. About 22 years ago, I'd spent a lot of time researching around vitamin D, and I started to take to the stage of the world, going to scientific conferences, to gatherings, speaking to health authorities, saying everybody should supplement with vitamin D. It's a hormone. It's synthesized through the sun. We don't get enough of it. Those of us living in the northern hemisphere, we get about 2 months a year. We should all supplement with vitamin D. And no one listened. People go, meh, not so sure. There's this guy I follow on Instagram, and he disagrees. He looks really good when he's got tight shorts on. I don't think you're right. And then we had COVID. And all around the world on one sunny day, there were headlines that showed the biggest medical clinics in the US and the UK and Australia and even China had identified that the worst symptoms, the most severe cases, all showed a vitamin D deficiency. And that day, my email inbox exploded. I had nearly 200 emails of people from all around the world saying, Dear Dr. Cole, I remember you gave a talk about vitamin D. Can you tell me what's the best one to take? I couldn't get any work. I couldn't get to my work emails because random emails from people from all over the world who'd read the headlines suddenly went, who do I know that talked about vitamin D? Ah, that fella. Which one shall I take? We don't need another lockdown or a pandemic for people to wake up about the rest of all those vitamins and minerals or omegas. It's basic human biology, biochemistry. If I asked all of you to write the story of your life, you're going to write a book. It's going to tell me everything about your life, your childhood, your school, your parents, your friends, the first time you fell in love, the first time you had your heart broken, the person you married, your career, the countries you've traveled to. Tell me everything. Yeah? But when you write in your book, you can't use any words with the letter A, B, C, D, E, I, or K. Okay? How good will your book be? Will it be more of a challenge to communicate your message when all of those words are missing? That's how I want you to think about vitamins and minerals. Think of your body trying to communicate every minute of every hour of every day. And when things are under pressure, communication becomes even more important. You need to have everything in place. And that's what we do. In Extend and Extend Plus, we have a synergistic formulation that I would happily debate with anyone is the most advanced multivitamin available to anybody in the world. How that formulation functions, its interaction with the immune system, the very specific amount of nutrients that were placed within it, it puts you in a winning position. It literally enables your biochemistry on a daily basis. It enables your body to communicate. Before you make a food choice, you can guarantee you have a sufficient amount of circulating vitamins and minerals to keep the whole system going. It puts you in a plus. It's a huge add. To get the same amount of nutrients that we put in 8 of those capsules, you would have to consume over 3,000 kcals worth of the most nutrient-dense food you could get your hands on. Not everyone needs to take that amount. Depending on how your diet is, most days, maybe you only need 2, maybe you only need 4. It's entirely up to you as to how many you take. It should be adapted and it should be aligned with how your diet is. But you have to be honest with yourself about your diet. If your diet's not packed with fresh fruit and veg and whole foods, then you need to take a little bit more. If it is, then you can take a bit less. But it's a way to advance and put you in a winning position. So go back to that person who needs to make a radical change to their nutritional health status. I could stand and watch them drown and tell them all the things they shouldn't do. Or I can get involved. I can go, right, let's restore the cell. Let's optimize and restore the gut. Let's make sure you've got enough nutrients available to do all those things that you want to do. And time again, when we take that approach, the other problems start to take care of themselves. Because when the gut is satisfied and it's no longer craving sugars and these big hits and dopamine's not firing around the brain, the system calms down and you have less of those cravings. When those cells are intact and you feel better and you feel more energetic, then the prospect of doing some physical activity or exercise seems far more realistic. And when the body's communicating and you're not getting coughs and colds every time one is circulating, and the system is working efficiently, then how you feel in yourself starts to drive the choices you make about yourself. And then, because it will occur to you that you might not want to have a chocolate biscuit every day, or have takeaway food 3 times every week, or realize that you can't have a huge piece of cake after every meal. This sounds laughable, but I deal with these people on a weekly basis. It starts to become an easier mountain to climb. You've got far more physical robustness. You're in a better state psychologically, physiologically, to have the confidence required and to have the belief required to start making other health changes. Success, just like all those 37 trillion cells, is a multiplier. Once you start to achieve success, once you start to feel like you're getting somewhere with your health journey, you get a bigger appetite for more success. You get more confidence about it. You're feeling better, you're doing better, you're moving forward, and you have that confidence to move on to the next step, the next thing that you're going to do. I've been in Zinzino for just over 3 years now, and I regularly meet people who I met at the start, but I'm literally meeting different people. And they come up to me and they share stories of everything they've undergone and the changes they've made and what they're doing now. And they are phenomenal. And one such person, I'll end on this, he reached out to me just before Christmas. He has gone through such a life transformation, something that even his doctors told him wasn't going to be possible. I don't know if you might have met this guy. His name's Anton. He had the most just unbelievable experience. He went parachute. Have you met this person? Have you heard about this person? Yeah, he went skydiving, parachute jumping. And guess what happened? The parachute didn't open. So he jumped out of the plane, and the ground met him really quickly. Broke every bone in his body. Was in hospital, was in agony, was in pain, was taking high-dose pain medication. Miraculously, through his own self-will, got himself able to move again, able to walk again. And just when things had started to improve, he was in a road traffic accident where the car turned several times. Multiple fractures, organ failure, and again was taking pain medication at the highest levels just to function every day, and went through a period of rehabilitation. And at his lowest point, a friend of his said, well, what are you doing about your nutrition and your diet? He said, does it matter? And he said, well, I think some of these things might help. And he got him to start taking balance oil. Within a few weeks, he started to take the whole health protocol. And he reached out to me before Christmas because he's about to do a TED Talk. He's now running every day. He's now living his full life every day. He doesn't take any types of pain medication. He's got his diet in check. He's got his health in check. He's got his fitness in check. And now he's sharing his story with the rest of the world. And that's all happened since I joined here. And I share that story because it's one of the most powerful. For the rest of us, it's the day-to-day real stuff that matters most, and this is the way to achieve it. The health protocol is the antidote to an energy-high, nutrition-low diet, and we put back in what's missing. Add before you subtract. And that's everything I've got to say this morning. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for inviting me here.